Now let's hear Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, who dares not have a serious person on his program to discuss quote-unquote climate change. Jake Tapper, a liberal and a Democrat who worked for a liberal Democrat member of the House, Mezvinsky, and worked for Handgun Control, Inc., and obviously it has affected how he thinks. Here's what he said not too long ago, an hour or two ago. Go ahead.
All part of a pattern that you're familiar with, I'm sure, where the president disregards facts in favor of whatever reality he finds most politically or personally expedient at the moment.
What kind of a news report is this? What kind of a news report is this? The climate change anchor. The Obamacare anchor. The it's not an invasion, it's a caravan anchor. But more on that in a moment. Go ahead.
But he believes it. The list goes on and on. But now the consequences are literally life and death. And the president is ignoring the conclusions of the experts who work in his administration.
You don't even know who these experts are, Jake. That's what a phony you are. You're not a serious journalist. You don't even know who these experts are. You didn't take time to look into their backgrounds. You only read a government-issued report. And that's what I mean now. We have journalists, when the government issues a report, if they like the outcome, if they like the policy, then they push it.
16 presidential election.
President knows that they sought to interfere in the election. And they have repeatedly sought to interfere in our presidential elections. But what you don't report, Jake, is the extent to which the Obama administration interfered with our election and what they did about the Russians interfering in our election, which is almost nothing. That's why you're not a serious journalist. But let's try this game, shall we, Jake? Fake Tapper? As my buddy Victor Davis Hanson has reported in his column, didn't CNN reporter Manu Raju in December 2017 falsely assert that Donald Trump had advanced access to hacked WikiLeaks documents? Such a false charge smeared Trump Jr. And it may have spawned all sort of subsidiary rumors that he was on the verge of a Mueller indictment. What were Raju's sources for such an inaccurate charge? Or why did CNN anchor Chris Cuomo falsely assert that only the media, that is, outlets like CNN, could download the hacked email trove of John Podesta, as if it was illegal for anyone else to do the same? For example, remember, it is illegal to possess these stolen documents. It is different from the media. So everything you learn about this, you are learning from us. That's what he said. What CNN legal counsel gave him, such absurd legal advice. Why did CNN's own unnamed source, namely Lanny Davis, later deny he had ever given CNN any information that Donald Trump had advanced warning of a meeting between Russian interests and Donald Trump Jr.? Why did not the authors of the false story, Jim Sciutto, Carl Bernstein, and Marshall Cohen, retract in full the allegation, or at least explain exactly why their not-so-anonymous source, Lanny Davis, was claiming that he never told the three that his client, Michael Cohen, had professed foreknowledge of the meeting on the part of Trump? Why were Thomas Frank, Eric Lichtblau, and Lex Harris, the supposed dream team of CNN investigative reporters, all forced to resign from CNN? Was it their collective but false report that Anthony Scaramucci was connected to a $10 billion Russian investment fund? What were the sources for that fake account? Did the news account hurt the Trump transition? Would they have been so fast and loose with the truth in the case of President-elect Hillary Clinton? Might they instead have reported at about the same time on the Clintons' campaign funding of Fusion GPS and the Christopher Steele project? CNN's Gloria Bolger, again Eric Lichtblau, Jake Tapper, and Brian Rokas, remember, also had erroneously reported that former FBI Director James Comey would, in congressional testimony, soon contradict President Trump's prior assertion that he was told by Comey that he was not under investigation. That report proved false, and yet it too had helped to whip up anti-Trump hysteria on the eve of the Comey appearance. Why is it that one can easily predict the particular political slant of these fake news stories? Even in trivial matters, CNN has fudged the truth, and always in a predictably biased direction. As, for example, in its selective viewing of a video that suggested Trump buffoonishly had preempted the Japanese prime minister and overfed fish during a joint photo op. In truth, Trump simply followed what the prime minister was doing. And it goes on. Earlier, CNN had reported that singer Nancy Sinatra was not happy that the president and first lady's inaugural dance would be to the music of her father, Frank Sinatra, My Way, a story of her purported anger that Sinatra denied. During the lead-up to the Neil Gorsuch nomination announcement, CNN senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny inaccurately announced that the Trump White House was purportedly, quote, setting up the Supreme Court announcement as a primetime contest by creating two identical Twitter pages for possible nominees, Gorsuch and Hardiman. Later, Zeleny sheepishly retracted that falsehood. The shoddiness in reporting by CNN in particular, in my opinion, about Trump and the occasional flat-out inaccurate news stories reflect a toxic network culture in which partisanship is now standard and apparently to be expected. A certain furor over Trump often erupts in repeated obscene anti-Trump and unprofessional outbursts of CNN journalists, contributors, and anchors. Whether Anderson Cooper trashing a pro-Trump panelist by profanely retorting, if he took a dump on his desk, you would defend it. Or CNN religious scholar Reza Aslan referring to Trump as this piece of S. Or perhaps the late CNN host Anthony Bourdain joking in an interview about poisoning Trump on CNN New Year's Eve. Or New Year's Eve host Kathy Griffin's infamous photo pose holding a facsimile of Trump's severed head. After a while, the pattern becomes undeniable. And it goes on. What about that fake tapper? What about those lies? What about that disinformation? You'll never talk about that. But you're welcome to come on my program to debate, quote-unquote, climate change and the veracity or lack thereof of CNN. Lies. All these liars working for CNN. Liars, left and right. And they know they're lying, right, Jake? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The media have become the mouthpiece for the radical leftists. They lie. Jake Tapper is a liar. CNN lies. If you don't embrace some government report, then all of a sudden there's something wrong with you. You're a liar. Well, his own government issued it. There's 2 million people in the government. You can't fire anybody. So it wasn't his own government that issued it. It was the executive branch, not his administration per se. They know it. They don't care.